Hey, what's up guys, it's Kelly, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm reviewing Hollowpox by Jessica Townsend. If you find yourself enjoying this video, then please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, it really helps me out, and if you're new here and would like to see more of me, then please subscribe. Hollowpox is book 3 in the Nevermoor series by Jessica Townsend, and unless you are like super new and this is one of the first videos of mine you're ever watching, you will know that I love Nevermoor with every fibre of my being. There was a tweet that went around like a year and a half ago, and it was something like, what would you tweet from your account to let people know that you're not okay, or something like that. And mine was, Nevermoor is the worst book ever written, because I feel like literally all I do is just talk about how much I love Nevermoor. So freaking much. And clearly you guys do too, because my Nevermoor and Wondersmith reviews are two of my most viewed reviews on this channel, so yay for that. Glad that you guys love Nevermoor as much as I do. So I figured I'm going to continue with this, and I'm just going to review all of the books as they come out. Like, I've had so many people tell me that they've read Nevermoor because of me, like because of my recommendations, and also like I work in a bookstore, so I recommend Nevermoor to everyone, and it's so heartwarming every time I know that someone has read this book because of me, well, has read this series because of me. Do want to say before we get into this video, there aren't going to be spoilers for Hollowpox. This is spoiler free for Hollowpox, however there will be spoilers obviously for Nevermoor and for Wondersmith, so if you haven't already read those, then you should probably not watch this video unless you are okay with the prospect of spoilers. If you are still considering if you should read the series, go watch my Nevermoor review. If you've read Nevermoor and for some reason you're undecided about whether or not you should continue, go and watch my Wondersmith review. And if you've read both of them, you're in the right place. Strap in, because holy hell, this book was a ride. Okay, so we open up. Our heroine, Morrigan Crow, has survived the trials to get into the Wondrous Society. She has survived her first year in the Wondrous Society. She has survived learning new skills. She has survived exploring some of the most dangerous parts of Nevermoor. She has survived Ezra School, the most evil man who has ever lived. She survived blackmail. She survived being in a class full of people who don't really trust her, who are a little bit scared of her. And she has survived the secret of her being a Wondersmith being revealed to the entire Wondrous Society. Now comes the fun part. So she finally, in her second year at the Wondrous Society, is getting to study the wretched arts, which are like her Wondersmith skills. Now obviously there are no other Wondersmiths that we know of in existence except for Ezra School, so she doesn't have a teacher as such. She gets to walk into these little like pockets of time that are essentially memories, and she gets to watch lessons from the previous generation of Wondersmiths. So she gets to watch their lessons, observe them, practice along with them, and in that way she's learning to grow her powers. However, it is extremely lonely, because although she can see everyone else, obviously she's just observing a moment that has happened. No one can see her, she's not interacting with anyone. So it is lonely, it is tough, but slowly but surely she is learning to master some of her powers, and we love to see it. It was so much fun and so exciting learning along with her and learning to understand more about the wretched arts and the magic that Wondersmiths can do, and also like, oh, the stuff that she can do. I'm so excited to see what she can do when she gets full mastery over her powers, because that girl is amazing. Oh my gosh. So it looks like things are going pretty well, and then disaster strikes. A virus has invaded Nevermoor and is spreading across Wonimals. So Wonimals are like animal-human hybrids. They in some way look like animals, so some of them are almost completely animoid, is that a word? Like they'll look exactly like a giraffe or a leopard or whatever. They'll look exactly like a normal animal is what they're called in Nevermoor, but they like walk and talk and function like humans, and then some of them will just have like very minimal animal features. They'll have like a tail or snout or whatever. But yes, animals essentially like live and work and contribute to society in the same way that humans do, but they just have these animal characteristics. And this virus is affecting animals, and it sends them on a violent, murderous rampage and then burns them out and leaves them comatose. And when they wake up, they seem to have lost everything that makes them a animal, and they're basically just like plain old animals. So this virus is spreading through Nevermoor. Everyone is terrified, everyone is panicking, and Morrigan believes that she is the only person that can solve it, because of course she does. Because our girl is nothing if not self-sacrificing. And also just a little bit conceited. Now the fear is understandable. Animals are scared because this virus takes away everything that makes them them and leaves them like as a shell, but also it sends them on violent, murderous rampages. Now, animals don't want to harm people. People definitely don't want to be harmed by animals. So the fear just completely infects Nevermoor, and it becomes a soapbox upon which people can stand to spew hatred and spew division, and this very big rift is created between the citizens of Nevermoor, where you have a lot of people like actively working to try to save the animals, and you have a lot of people who are like, let's just wipe them out because we don't really want them in our society anyway. They're different, they look different to us. We don't want them. At the moment they're just causing a danger to society, so let's just quarantine them. So I have to be honest, I have some questions for Jessica Townsend. Now, if you don't live and breathe and die by Nevermoor like I do, you might not know that this book was pushed back like 2 or 3 times. It was originally supposed to come out last year, and then the release date got pushed back. I have a feeling it even got pushed back to a later date last year. Then it got pushed back to, I think, May this year, and then it got pushed back again to September, October, which is when it finally came out. The book's title has always been Hollowpox, like since it was announced, basically, its title was going to be Hollowpox. So I'm assuming that the virus was always intended to be the main plot of the story. However, there are some details that I have questions about, because the city effectively goes on lockdown. People are told to stay home, to keep themselves safe, a curfew is enforced, and I'm like, is Jessica Townsend just low-key psychic? Or what, did the publication get delayed because like she couldn't finish the book or whatever it was, and it's just that art started to imitate life? Because this whole book feels so timely for 2020. Obviously the 2 viruses are very different, but like some of the effects of the virus on society just feel very familiar. On that note, I think that this book would be like quite a helpful resource for teachers and parents to discuss these sorts of issues with kids. I think it opens up a really helpful like introduction to discussions about, like, yes, partly viruses and lockdowns and why it is important that we're trying to stay home at the moment, and you know, why we need to work so hard to keep ourselves safe, but also it opens up a very good platform for discussing why people have prejudices just because someone looks different or speaks differently, or, you know, the multitude of reasons that humans choose for hating each other. So the plot is excellent, exquisite, amazing, but also so timely, and I think such a good way of introducing children to difficult topics and difficult ideas, and allowing for there to be a conversation to open up their understanding of these things. One of the things that I love about Jessica Townsend is that she doesn't shy away from difficult things, and she doesn't shy away from difficult ideas, and she just accepts that, you know, children are vaguely intelligent and they don't need to be spoon-fed, and you can give them a book that makes them think, and they can handle that. I also love that she does put stakes in her books. So, like, yeah, the series is about Morrigan, so if Morrigan gets into a difficult situation, I kind of assume that she's not going to die, right? At least not before, like, the very last book. It wouldn't make sense. However, a lot of the secondary characters getting into really difficult situations, like, I genuinely am scared for them, because she writes in such a way that I fully believe that they might die, or just something, like, really terrible might happen to them. And I really appreciate that these books have stakes, and they do worry me, and they do scare me, because, like, bad shit happens. And I think it's really great that she does introduce kids to the idea that, like, good people die, and bad things happen to good people, and sometimes that's just how the world is, and it sucks, but that is what happens in the world. I think it's really important for kids to be exposed to difficult situations and difficult concepts and grief and sadness and a whole spectrum of negative things in a safe space like a book, because it means that when they get exposed inevitably to bad things in real life, it just, I think, makes them a lot more ready to handle it. Whereas when you coddle children and you don't teach them how to process anything except good stuff, that's how you end up with adults that don't know how to deal with their emotions. So yes, that is one of the many, many things that I appreciate about Jessica Townsend, and on that note, let's move on to her writing, because it is astounding. It is so good. She is exceptional, and again, she doesn't, like, she's, as much as she's writing for children, she acknowledges that there might be things that they don't know, but that at least they're smart enough to know that they don't know them. So she doesn't, like, baby her readers with the language that she uses or the concepts that she uses. I think she just has enough faith in her readers that if they don't understand something, they'll ask or they'll research it, because any child that's old enough to be reading her books almost definitely has, like, easy access to the internet and can just, like, Google a word if they don't understand it. So I think that's one of the reasons that so many adults love these books as well, is they're just so well written. And they're not well written for children's books. They're just excellent books in and of themselves, without any caveats, without any disclaimers. Like, I read Nevermoor back in 2017 when it came out, and for, like, the whole of 2018, as I was recommending it to customers, I kept saying to them, like, this was my favourite book of last year. Not my favourite children's book, my favourite book. Like, this stood up against every YA, every adult book that I read, and it was better than all of them. She's just such a good writer. She's so good at weaving words together. She's so good at constructing sentences and building a picture, and just, oh, love her so much. Her writing is phenomenal. If I can ever write a book for children or adults that is as well crafted as any of the Nevermoor books, I will be thrilled. Which seems like a good time to go into world building. So one of the things that I loved about Wondersmith was that we got to see the world of Nevermoor open up a lot more. We got to explore a lot more of Nevermoor, and I was just wowed continuously by this world that she had created. Like, the descriptions of everything and how vividly everything came to life in my mind, I was just floored by. And there wasn't as much of that in Hollowpox. We got to explore, like, a couple of new areas of Nevermoor, but it didn't feel like I didn't really feel like I got to know Nevermoor much better necessarily, but she did start to open up the world even more. We got to understand a lot of the, like, political issues, drama between Nevermoor and the Wintersea Republic. So I'm expecting that to start expanding in the coming books, and I just loved that. So although the world didn't, like, physically expand that much, we're definitely getting a deeper understanding of, like, the political structure of the world, which I am here for. I love me some good political intrigue in my fantasy, and yeah, I just think it's going to be really interesting to see where she takes that aspect of the story. I don't think she would have focused on it as much in Hollowpox if we weren't going to be sprinkling out that direction in the coming books, and I'm fascinated to see where it goes. The other thing I really enjoyed was understanding a lot more about Wunimals, so we explore a lot more of like what makes Wunimals, the differentiations between the different classes of Wunimals, because there are Wunimal mages and Wunimal minors. We also got to understand a lot more, like I mentioned at the beginning, of kind of the politics of Wunimal's existence and the way that a lot of people view them and the prejudices against them. So there wasn't that much physical world building in this book, but there were so many foundations laid to expand things in future books. To me, in like a longer book series, book 3, book 4 is where you really start to like see a turning point. Like now, kind of the foundation of the series has been laid, you know all your characters, and now's where things like really start to get interesting. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more of like the nitty-gritty of what makes up this world, and so excited to see where the next couple books are going to go. Onto characters. This book was a whole ride because I had to keep reminding myself that Morrigan is now 13. Like when we met her in Nevermoor, she was 11, and in my mind, she's still 11, but there were all of these moments in the book where I was like, Mog, you can't do that. And then I was like, she's 13, she's a teenager. I mean, like, yes, she's still a baby, but she doesn't think so. I remember being 13, and I didn't think I was a baby. It's astounding to me that she's now a teenager, she's growing up. Yeah, but along with being a teenager comes thinking that she knows everything, and some epic like temper tantrums and meltdowns and blowouts between her and Jupiter, and whew, there was some drama in this book and I was lapping it all up. So it's so great to see how, like, yeah, in some ways she's like maturing and growing so much, and then in other ways she is just a teenager who is giving her guardian some shit. I just want to briefly talk about Jack, not because there's much to say, but just because I really love him. He's always just like around, and I wish that we would see more of him, and I suspect that we will, because like he has a very interesting and useful power in his like witness ability, and I think we'll see a lot more of him and a lot more of him using that, and I'm just really looking forward to that because I think that he's such an underutilized character. I think I love him for a lot of the same reasons that I love Alec Lightwood, and that he, in so many ways, he seems so like by the book, and this is how you do things, and this is right, and this is wrong, but then he also has these amazing moments of comic relief, and he also is, as much as he's like, yeah, this is right and wrong, he makes exceptions to the rules more often than he follows the rules. And yeah, all around, I just think that he's such an interesting character that I just desperately want more of. Like, I like him so much, and I just want more of him, and I just wanted an excuse to talk about him. He is like utilized quite a bit in this book for quite an important use, which I liked. I liked that we got to see a bit more of him, but I would like even more of him in the coming books. And then the last character that absolutely needs to be spoken about is Ezra School. So, as I mentioned, Morrigan is kind of getting to watch these classes that the previous generation of Wondersmiths participated in. And that generation included School. So she starts to realise that he is in these classes that she's watching, and she starts to really hone in on him and focus on him. You get to see this completely different side of him as a child growing up. The insight that we get into his backstory in this book is so good. So you have Morrigan interacting with him like as an adult, where we're supposed to see him as the evilest man that's ever lived, and then you have her watching him as a child, being like this happy, healthy, normal, well-adjusted child, hanging out with his friends, making jokes, just like being excited about learning, being in a very similar situation to the one that she finds herself in. And it causes such an interesting dichotomy, not only in how Morrigan sees school, but also I think in how we see school. And there's a point where she mentions that she's almost separated them in her mind, and she has School the man, who is like very, very evil and terrible and wants to kill everyone and killed all his friends, and she sees Ezra the child, who just wants to learn and do amazing things and is so excited about this power that he has. And at this point, we haven't quite managed to reconcile them. Like, you see him as a child, you see him as an adult, and there's some hints that are laid for what happened in between to get him from here to here, but there's a lot of backstory there's a lot of that bridge that still needs to be filled in. At the moment, it's like there's like a rope and there's like a proper bridge that's forming, but is going to take a while for us to kind of fill in all of those slats along the bridge, and I'm so fascinated to see where she's going to take his character, because I always love a good villain. You know, villains I find so fascinating, and from the moment that we met him, he seemed very like black and white, this is an evil person, but there's always more to a villain than meets the eye. And that understanding of like how they get there, villain origin stories are always the most fascinating. I'm just so fascinated by where his character's going to go, because I think not only am I very interested about that backstory and about that bridge from how he gets from like sweet happy child to super evil man, I think there's a lot more to him as the super evil man than meets the eye. I don't know. I'm kind of happy with either way though. If it turns out that he really is just like a soulless evil monster who has completely eschewed everything good in his life and has like neglected every bit of his past and is just like pure darkness now, I'm okay with that. But I am also okay with him having like quite a bit of complexity and him finding some sort of redemption, not too much, but yeah. Just regardless of what direction his character goes, I think it'll be amazing, and I'm just, from these like little nuggets that we've gleaned from his past now, I'm super excited to have the rest of his past filled in. So I think that about covers most of what I needed to say about this book. I hope I haven't left anything out, because this is the second time I had to film it, because I spent 2 hours filming on Monday only to discover that my mic had stopped working. So I had no audio for the full 2 hours of content that I recorded, which was fantastic. Love that for me. So I am seriously worried that I might have forgotten something like key that I mentioned in that review that I haven't mentioned in this review, but oh well. So this book, I think, managed to be in its own right just a very good book and have a very compelling story, but also it laid really strong foundations for where the series is going to go. And it is difficult to make a good book that is also a foundational book. That's something that a lot of trilogies get wrong. Like book 2 almost always ends up just being a foundational book that's where like nothing happens, but it's just leading the way to everything to happen in book 3. But like this managed to be a really good book with a really strong story, but also lay a lot of groundwork. So I loved this book, and also it just made me so excited for where the series is going to go. I think it's been confirmed that there'll be at least another 3, but I have heard rumblings that it might be a 9-book series, which is like I am ready for. That means that Morrigan's going to be an adult by the time it finishes, and just, yes, I need to see this child as an adult and just like the things that she's going to be capable of, guys. Oh, I love her so much. I love this series so much. By now, I would be flabbergasted if you were expecting me to give this book anything less than 5 stars, but to be honest, like I need another star. So like I read Nevermoor and I thought nothing could be better than this, and I gave it 5 stars, and then I read Wondersmith and I was like, oh shit, I was wrong. This is better, but could still only give it 5 stars. And now I've read this one and I'm like, but it's even better and I can still only give it 5 stars. I'm feeling a lot of things right now. I think I need to go eat some food because I feel like I'm going crazy. I feel like I'm acting crazy at this point. So yeah, just this book floored me. It was amazing. Best one so far. Loved it. Go read it if you haven't already. Thank you very, very much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed this. If you did, then please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to me. You can also leave me some comments of what you thought of Hollowpox if you have read it, or just anything you thought about anything that I've said in this video. Leave me some theories, please. We love to see them. In the description, you'll find links to all of my other social media. That's my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Goodreads, as well as my blog. You'll also find links to my online store, my Redbubble store, my Ko-fi, and my Patreon if you'd like to support me on any of those, as well as my Blackwell's affiliate link where you can buy Hollowpox. I will get a small commission if you decide to purchase through that link, and they do ship worldwide. So thank you for watching, and I shall see you all again very soon. Bye!
My life is grounded in a